Hello and welcome. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Steph.
And we are your hosts for the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Parmak cast.
Parmak, of course, being the Klingon word for love.
Because on this podcast, we believe that love will save the world.
And that the Deep Space Nine crew are all in a massive polyamorous relationship web.
That too. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for Season 1, Episode 16 of the Parmak cast.
Yeah, boy!
Wild to think we finally arrived at such a big marker. I guess for other people, 16 is not a big number, but for me, 4 is my favorite number, and so it's like, wow, 4 by 4. Like, 16 is the biggest deal you could possibly have.
That's absolutely just, like, stacked.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so this is, like, big deal in my household, and I'm so glad to you all for joining me.
I love learning this about you. 16 was my favorite number for a while as, like, a kid, because I thought, like, life happened when you were 16.
Oh,
I
that
was
makes
misled
sense.
by the sound of music.
No, I think that you were led exactly
going on
correctly
17.
by the sound of music. That's
okay, but I didn't get a cute boyfriend at 16. I was going to say I didn't get a cute Nazi boyfriend, but I didn't want a cute Nazi boyfriend in the first place, so...
That's the trade-off. You either get a cute boyfriend, but he's a Nazi.
Who's a Nazi?
Or you don't, and then you turn out a faggot. And those are sort of the two options.
And baby, I said, let's see what's behind door number 2.
You sure fucking did. I love that you also
back,
had a
Greg.
journey to appreciating the number 16, though. I feel like just like,
It
I'm
still
not a
feels
math
good to me.
person, but I feel like if I
Neither am
were,
I, yeah.
I could tell you facts about how it's a mathematically perfect number. But all I could tell you is that it is an emotionally perfect number because that's all I have.
I am not a math person either. I do feel numbers have vibes. Like,
Yeah.
I think one of the most perfect multiplication tables is 7 times 7 is 49.
Yes, that's a
That
really good one. Yeah, I
exquisite
don't know what
vibes.
it is about it, but you're
Incredible.
exactly right. You're exactly right.
So that's a big favorite of mine.
Numbers also have
But-
colors, like 4 is green and 16 is purple. I can't tell
Okay,
you
see,
why
I heard
they
about
just
that.
do.
I don't have that. I just have vibes, no colors. But I love that you have colors.
They're not all as, like, immutable, but those are a very hard, like, 4 is green, 16 is purple. There is not any wiggle room.
I mean, I see that.
Thank
I
you.
see that for those numbers.
I love that. I love that you can hop on the train that I am on, because it is
Your train
sometimes-
is my favorite train.
sometimes a lonely train. Okay, we should talk about the thing we're actually here to
Yeah, all
talk
right.
about.
I guess you people want to hear about Deep Space Nine.
Yes, which is Season 1, Episode 16 of Deep Space Nine, titled The Forsaken.
The Forsaken. It's such a serious title. I thought we were going to get, like, the horrors of war in here.
I know, we were really gearing up this week to, like, have a serious one, especially because, you know, last week was Rumpelstiltskin, and usually...
Very much a silly one.
We alternate a little bit, but no, we're just going full tilt silly for the end of Season 1 of Deep Space Nine.
I respect that.
I respect it, I embrace it, I enjoy it. I maybe judge it, but only with all the love in my heart.
Yeah, it's a judgment that comes from a place of love.
So what do we think of this episode, The Forsaken? How did it hit for you, Steph?
I think it's a really solid episode. I think the beats of each plot really do nicely. I do think I don't love the, like, I guess it's the A plot of the station being, like, invaded sort of by this puppy program, which
Yeah.
I guess it's just because Majel and Renee are so good together.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Everything else pales in comparison. I'm like, I just want to watch these two for an entire 45 minutes.
I mean, to me, it felt like the episode had at least a level of self-awareness about that fact. Like, the A plot never felt to me like it was working super hard to take our attention away from the thing we really wanted to be watching.
Like there's also some stuff going on, but we know what you're here for.
Yeah, don't worry too hard about it. I'm sure O'Brien's going to figure it out. And he
does.
does.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
He sure does.
So to me, it felt
job,
more
Miles.
like it was like a framing story than like something we had to pay a ton of attention to. But I agree, certainly, that it is less interesting than the rest of what's going on in this episode.
Yes. How'd you feel about it?
I really liked it. I really enjoyed. I did not remember this episode a ton, like its placement in the season. Obviously,
I didn't even remember it was in season 1.
Oh,
I was
well,
like,
yeah,
oh
there you go.
shit, we're here. Okay.
It's surprising how much good, iconic shit they've managed to cram into what is otherwise, I think, pretty much
An uneven season.
Yeah, and what is thought of by the fandom, I think, is like unambiguously the worst of the show, you know? But I think this episode's great. I think anytime Loxana Troy shows up is just so much fun.
I love her so much.
But-
she is just so fun.
She's so much fun, but I also was surprised by how much this episode, it is a silly one. Boy, they be silly. There's so much silly in this episode, but it also has a lot more going on for it than that. And I feel like this is, I would have to go back, but this, I feel in my heart in this moment, is maybe the first example of that in the show so far, where they managed to thread the line or thread the needle between the silly and the emotionally complex and deep with such precision in a way that I think really later becomes a hallmark of the show.
Ooh, that's a really great observation. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just think it's interesting, like how to what great effect that works in this episode, and also is specifically in contrast to last week, which was not that.
Was not that. It sure wasn't.
So I'm excited to talk about it. I think we've got a good episode on our hands here overall.
I agree. Very much so.
What flavor did you have down for us this week?
I had featuring TNG just because it's Loxana and she's very much the center of attention, as she should be.
Yeah.
She always should be. I saw that you also had one in addition to that.
Yeah, I just had noted like terrible hotel guests in space featuring TNG because of the way, like, obviously one, Loxana is like the prototypical terrible hotel guest in that it's like, lady, just leave me alone, please. But also the space dog or whatever, you know, something shows up, we don't know what to do with it. It felt sort of like that's what it says on the tin, you know.
Very true.
I know we had also talked about with the Mullabach episode, our like special guest star, and so like this is very that. It just happens to be someone who was already on TNG, so we threw it in
That's
with
true.
that.
That's
but
true.
You could look at it either way.
It contains multitudes, much like ourselves.
Much like ourselves. And much like Les Landau, Don Carlos Dunway, and Michael Piller, who were the director and teleplay writers, respectively, of this episode.
Phenomenal.
It was
stuff.
Thank you. I've practiced that segue long and hard in the mirror this morning. And our episode was released on May 23rd, 1993, a Sunday. Shall we get into our recap, Steph?
Let's do it.
Woo! All right,
You want to start us off?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, you started.
No, you're fine. We open on our dear Benjamin, who shares in a station log that Deep Space Nine has been honored with a visit by a delegation of Federation ambassadors on a fact-finding mission to the wormhole. Ben is pleased to share that he has foisted the ambassadors onto an officer to, quote, take them off my hands. And I just love that this is basically Julian Bashir's job description on Deep Space Nine, to deal with the problems that no one else wants to. Just give it to the twink. It'll be fine.
And we find Dr. Bashir sitting in Quarks with the trio of ambassadors, Lojal, a Vulcan, Vidozia, a Bolian, and Tasco, an Arbazon. Tasco is displeased with her quarters. Vidozia is annoyed they haven't met Commander Sisko yet. Lojal wants a tour of the station. Nobody at this table is happy.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they're ragging on each other, they're ragging on Julian. Like, no one's having a good time here. I do think this is a great episode for showcasing folks' comedic chops, and I love Siddigs in this opening scene of just, he's so,
It's so good.
what if, like, he's trying so hard.
Yeah,
he's just...
He's trying so hard, but it's also almost like I'm gonna say whatever spills out of my face
Yeah.
to like get you to leave me alone. Which
I don't know.
it's very relatable, I feel like, to anyone who has ever had to deal with people like this. And I think most of us, unfortunately, who work jobs have had to deal with people like this.
Unfortunately,
At
yes.
one point or another. I can think of one person specifically from your job that I'm not going to say the name of on the air, but girl, you know who you are.
Right. Incredible. Yes.
We also have a line here where Julian says to them, well, Commander Sisko is very busy with the recalibration sweep. And one of the ambassador goes, huh? What are you recalibrating? And Julian goes, everything. And I just really liked that.
It was a great bit.
Or just he's going through all of the station by himself, turning everything off and back on again. So he's too busy to meet with you. Sorry. It was really important, actually.
Crucial. Turning it off and turning it on again. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by the fourth ambassador, none other than Loxana Troy, daughter of the fifth house, holder of the sacred chalice of Reeks, heir to the holy rings of Beta Z.
Damn straight.
She cries out from the Dabo table. Julian rushes over to find that her latinum hair brooch has been stolen.
Dun dun da!
She's telling Julian what happened, and she has this great line where she's like, well, I was reaching over and I've been wigged. And I was just like, Slay Queen. So true.
So true, so good. Yeah, Loxana Troy, my God, Mother Huntress, truly the First Lady of Star Trek. Let's maybe just pause and do a brief Loxana introduction here for folks who are not aware, because obviously Steph and I are very excited to see her.
Yes.
So
and you may be wondering why.
Loxana Troy is a character that first appeared on Star Trek The Next Generation, TNG, as we often talk about, as the mother of ship's counselor Deanna Troy, so one of the main cast members on that show, and herself a Federation ambassador, which is the role we meet her in here. Loxana shows up on the Enterprise every now and again to embarrass Deanna, flirt with Captain Picard, and generally cause problems on purpose. There's a great interaction that I remember. I don't know what episode this was. I just have it like burned into my memory where she's on the bridge and is like poking at the little boopy doops at the like tactical station and is like, "Oh, what does this one do, Mr. Wolf?" And Worf goes, "Please, madam, that is a torpedo launch initiator." It's just like,
calling Worf Mr. Wolf is genuinely one of my favorite bits.
It's so fucking funny every single
so
time. It kills
time.
me. Loxana is played by Majel Barrett Roddenberry, who is the widow of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry and a veteran Star Trek actor herself, appearing as number one in the original series unaired pilot The Cage, and as Nurse Christine Chapel in the original series proper, as well as the Starfleet computer in the original series, the movies, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. She's all up in that bitch.
She's in Enterprise?
I believe so. Yeah, I think it's after Enterprise that they change it, because she didn't die until later.
I was going to say, but isn't Enterprise like pre-TOS in the timeline?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, do Betazoids live a long time?
I don't think... No, sorry, Loxana is not in Enterprise. I'm saying she was the voice of the computer in Enterprise.
Oh my God, sorry. I completely missed that part of the sentence. And
No
I was like,
worries.
No, I don't understand how that would have worked, but it's Star Trek. Maybe they did it.
That got me to a point of being like, wait, is Steph under the impression that Loxana herself recorded the voice and then they used it for... Because I kind of love that as a headcanon, if somehow
Oh my
that
God.
is true.
When they were first inventing talking computers, they were like, you know whose voice we should use for this? We love Loxana. We love Majel Barrett Roddenberry, first lady of Trek.
First lady in space.
First lady in space. We're in the Majel Barrett cinematic universe.
Yeah, It's true. So Julian calls over to Quark, but Quark claims that his establishment is not responsible for lost or stolen items. Lwaxana seizes him by the lobes and demands that everyone in the room be strip searched until her brooch is found, which, kinky. And she also has this line here where she goes, "I know just where it hurts most, you little troll," while she has her nails, like, digging into his ears. And I just had to note, not Lwaxana's first time dealing with the Ferengi, which is a reference to in the episode of TNG Menage a Troy, which is a hysterical episode title. She and Deanna were kidnapped and held hostage by a Ferengi captain. So
it did happen.
She's really got, the experience to deal with Quark here.
It's true. Also, it's great because Quark says that he is not responsible for lost or stolen items, and he points to the sign, and they're like, "What sign?" And it's like in this tiny, tiny print, and it's so far above the door, and it's like the literal fine print from Quark to get around, like, I think being responsible for things.
Julian's like, "You'd have to stand on a ladder to read that." And I'm like,
it's so good.
Fortunately, Chief of Security Odo arrives, and after a few brief questions, realizes that Lwaxana is a Betazoid and therefore telepathic. Odo asks Lwaxana if she senses any guilt in the room, and she shares that no, she doesn't, but she reminds Odo and the audience that Betazoid telepathy cannot read Ferengi minds. There's also this great little exchange between the two of them where Odo asks her, "You're certain you're wearing the brooch today?" And Lwaxana goes, "Yes, of course I'm certain. I never use this hair without it." Because she is wearing a bright bubblegum pink wig, which is incredible.
So incredible. Oh, so good. I also love the line where Odo's talking about, you can't read Quark's mind, but he doesn't usually have to resort to petty theft to fleece his clients. And Quark is like, "Thank you." Like, genuinely, he's like, "Thank you. I do provide a certain level of criminality to
he's like,
the atmosphere."
He's like, "Say that, Queen." I also just like, obviously, in this case, it's an inconvenience, but boy, what a great built-in safety situation that you just can't pick up anything from the Ferengi brain. That's like malware that you didn't know you needed until you became telepathic.
It's true. It's very true.
It's just better for everybody.
So Odo glances around the bar and apprehends a Dopterian pickpocket who is revealed to have the hair brooch amongst several other shiny items. Amazed, Lwaxana asks Odo how he knew, and he explains that since she couldn't sense any guilt in the room, the thief had to be someone immune to her telepathy, such as a Ferengi like Quark. And as we established, since Odo doesn't believe Quark would stoop to plain old petty theft, he instead focused on a member of the Ferengi species' distant relatives, the Dopterians.
I also kind of like the implication that it's like, no, Quark is like a Scooby-Doo villain. Like, Quark is not going to pickpocket you. It's going to be a crime so elaborate that it lasts at least 22 minutes with commercials and is going to end up with him tied up and being unmasked. Like, truly, that is Quark's lot in life.
It's true. It's a very accurate... Like, Odo has Quark's number, which doesn't surprise any of us.
Quark is very Old Man Jenkins who runs the amusement park.
He truly is.
So as Odo leaves, Lwaxana commands Bashir to tell her everything he knows about the station's chief of security, and it's clear that Odo has caught her eye.
Ooh.
And we get the theme music.
In Ops, Chief O'Brien struggles to force the Cardassian computer system to work, as it argues with his suggestions, gives him its opinions, and even overrules his requests.
This is me fighting with Siri, where it's like, just let it go. She can't understand, but I can't stop myself.
With the help of Anara, a Bajoran security officer, he tries to operate it manually, but the computer shuts down the manual operation. It's so good. Miles arguing with the computer. It's such great vibes. And there's really a point where he goes, "I don't want to read your tech manual."
I also love when we get a supporting character with a name. I was so excited with Anara, but was also like, please don't die or be evil, because those are usually the two things that are going to happen.
Usually why, that happens.
Yeah. So Ben enters as Miles starts to lose it completely, telling him to relax, since it's just a computer. Miles, extremely frustrated, shares that he's seriously considering a root canal to completely overhaul and rebuild the computer, a process that would take 2 to 3 years to complete. Ben tries to make a joke, but it falls flat, and he tells Miles to do what he has to do.
It's so funny. Ben is like, it's just a computer. And Miles is like, this is no computer. This is my arch enemy.
That was
like,
my
the
favorite
absolute drama
line.
he is bringing to this.
I also just had, for all you West Wing fans out there, that they're going to give the computer Woot Canal.
I wish I could respond to this, but I only saw like 1 or 2 seasons when I was like 11.
All you really need to know is that there's an episode where Allison Janney's character has root canal halfway through the episode, and then is talking like that for the rest of it.
I do know that bit. Oh my
Allison,
God, yes.
you don't need to watch any of the rest of it. Just watch Allison Janney doing that because it will bring you joy. Because Allison Janney is maybe the best thing to ever happen to the planet Earth.
You are not wrong. I can confirm that Jamie's icon on Amazon Prime Video is Allison Janney.
It's true. It sits very nicely next to Steph's Tony Shalhoub. I feel like they make
it's a
beautiful
great combo.
couple.
Really nicely done by us.
I would like to see their children. Anyways.
I do love that this episode is basically Majel-centric in every plot because not only is she Loxana, she is the computer.
Yeah, I also thought that was really funny. I was also listening because I had a memory that the Deep Space Nine, not the show, but the station computers had a different voice, and that it was the Runabouts and the Defiant, which you don't know what that is yet, but the Starfleet infrastructure that has the Majel voice. And in this episode, I couldn't tell. I kept trying to sort of listen to it, and I'm like, that sounds like her, but I also, like, you could convince me, you could gaslight me into believing that it was someone else if you had to. So I'm not totally sure.
I feel like it is her.
Yeah.
Like, I was listening to it as well pretty carefully, and I was like, I think that's Majel.
Well, good. I love that for us. I always want more of Majel.
It's what we want. More Majel all the time.
So just then, Bashir and 3 of the ambassadors arrive in the turbolift, and Julian shares that they insisted on seeing Ops. Commander Sisko, much to his annoyance, is forced to make conversation, but is saved when a mysterious probe comes through the wormhole.
What could it be?
What is it with aliens and probes, man? They just love probing stuff.
Avery in this scene is exquisite. The immediate flip. He, like, 180s the second the turbo lift opens and he realizes who it is.
Yeah.
And his expression is just like, fuck.
It's this, like, extremely real thing when you see a conversation that you don't want to have inevitably heading towards you, and your irrational, emotional mind is like, what if I somehow can just avoid making eye contact with these people? Maybe the conversation won't happen.
Maybe this time. I'll be
Maybe this time. Twice in a row. That was, we should make that our new theme song. I also just love Avery every time Ben has to deal with being a cog in, like, the larger Starfleet machine instead of being the top of the local totem pole. It's so funny every time. Like, he's just not good at that part of the job in a way that's very funny to me. He hates these fucking people.
It's very good. The ambassadors interject as the crew analyzes the probe. Lojal attempts to intervene, assuming that Dax is a young woman without any experience.
Boo!
Which I don't care for that beat. And Vidozia is intent on being involved in what may be first contact with a new species.
Mm-hmm.
However, Ben and Julian shut them both down, and Ben assures the ambassadors that there will be a briefing later, and he orders Julian to escort the ambassadors out of ops. Kira and Ben share a look as the ambassadors and Julian leave. It's really good. Ben gives Julian just this, like, infinitesimal eyebrow, like, get these people out of my ops.
Get these motherfucking snakes off my motherfucking plane.
Truly. And then Kira giving Ben this, like, knowing look, and he's like, just like, damn, I love this family so much.
Because the only person who hates, like, Starfleet Federation administrators as much as Benjamin is Kira Nerys. And that's fun that that's something they can bond over. Meanwhile, Loxana finds Odo in the security office and metaphorically, as well as almost physically, throws herself at him. She shares that she's fascinated by the idea of, quote, being with a shapeshifter. Odo is confused and pretty unsettled by her advances and pretends to hear a comm signal calling him from ops, fleeing the office. Loxana grins, not at all deterred by his flight, as she thinks the chase is afoot. And his look of absolute fucking confusion in the scene is so good.
Like, the two of them are so good together. Just peak comedic timing, playing off each other. It's incredible work from both of them through the whole episode.
It really, really is. She has this line here where she says to him, "Is Odo your first name or your last name?" And he goes, "Yes." And I'm like share.
That line. She also says that she has learned that Odo is the thin beige line between order and chaos.
That fucking killed me.
The dialogue in this episode, it's just so good.
She says at one point to him, she goes, "All the men I've known have had to be shaped, molded, manipulated. Finally, I meet a man that knows how to do it himself." Like, so fucking good.
So good. Back in ops, O'Brien and Dax interface with the probe, and the chief finds that the station's computer is suddenly quite cooperative, to his delight. Meanwhile, the probe's computer system is unlike anything they've ever seen before, prompting further investigation. Mm-hmm. There's a part where the computer does what he wants, and he goes, "Well done, computer."
He's so proud.
He's just so proud. I also love that we get to see more of ops, like the ops set in this episode.
Yeah.
There's more screens and stations and like the design. It's a little more fun to explore than just like everyone sitting at their designated spots.
I totally agree. Yeah, it feels like the difference between like when it's like on screen and we're all like looking ahead at like the same problem versus just like all the rest of the minutes in the day when we are just like at work. And I thought that this episode in a lot of ways felt much more like a workplace comedy kind of episode. And as such, we get a lot more of people just like at their cubicles doing stuff, you know?
I love it. Yeah, it's good. Odo arrives in Sisko's office and complains to the commander about Loxana's aggressive advances.
And there's a line here where he goes, "Commander, I have a problem." And Sisko goes, "Quark again." And I just was like, clocked his tea.
Clocked him so good. Ben asks if Odo has thought about accepting her advances to let himself have, quote, "a little romance." Odo, disgruntled, says he's busy with work and has no time for romantic interludes. He also shares with Ben that he finds humanoid species spend far too much time on their, quote, "mating rituals."
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to talk about the problematic nature of the scene, but also Ben's voice dropping like an octave. What's wrong with that? I'm like, Avery.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good. It's really good.
She's after you. Have you thought of letting her catch you? Like, I just wanted to write down every line in this scene. It's so good.
He's just so, like, velvety and sexy. Like, I get what you're getting at, for sure. There's also this great line, Odo, because Sisko's sort of saying, you know, it's that's how species procreate, is, you know, mating rituals and blah, blah, blah. And Odo says to him, "Procreation does not require changing how you smell or writing bad poetry or sacrificing various plants to serve as tokens of affection." And it's just such a good fucking line. But he's not wrong. That stuff is not productive in that way.
It is not technically required. he's not wrong.
Well, Odo asks Ben to tell Loxana to leave him alone, and Ben tells him that he can't help him and suggests that Odo handle the matter with great delicacy.
And Odo tells him, "I don't handle delicacy very well." And it's very good.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun little just like moment between them. They obviously have been building up a chemistry throughout the season, and we love when we get a Sisko Odo moment. Obviously, I find this scene quite funny and enjoyable as it's intended to be, and this arc generally I think is fun because it challenges Odo and pushes him outside of his comfort zone, which is a, you know, fun and satisfying position to put your character in for story purposes. All that said, sometimes knowing that we'll be discussing things on the podcast makes me look at things a little differently. And watching through this time of this episode, I couldn't get the echoes of workplace sexual harassment out of my mind during the scene. Like, the ways that Odo's superior doesn't take his complaints seriously and even makes light of them, or the way that he has to worry about offending her because of her important Federation job, even though she's the one who's behaving badly. Just like inevitable comparisons they sort of draw themselves. And ultimately, I think the thing to reckon with here is that this scene just hits very, very differently in 2025 than it did in 1993. I think In 1993, at a time when workplace sexual harassment of women by men was even more shockingly common and accepted than it is today, I think scenes like this or similar scenes on TNG of Lwaxana aggressively sexually pursuing Captain Picard felt very radical and transgressive. Like, to have a woman character in this sexually dominant and honestly sometimes sexually predatory role could land as comedy because of the ways it contrasted and satirized incredibly commonplace poor male sexual behavior. And in the context of a society that almost universally accepted this kind of bad behavior from men, the idea of a woman participating in that same behavior could be kind of like absurdist comedy. I mean, almost drag-like in the way of gender as performance, right? Where like that Lwaxana character is a very drag queen character. Whereas today, I think it feels a bit more difficult to stomach watching that scene. What works for me about it ultimately is the fact that Sisko, as Odo's friend, knows how much he struggles with socialization and with getting out of his comfort zone and even out of his own way sometimes. And I think it may be a bit paternalizing, yes, but I don't think Ben is at all wrong that exploring this potential connection with Lwaxana would be good for Odo, and that he's not able to see it because of the stick up his goo. And so, like, Ben is not wrong in this specific situation, but that still doesn't necessarily make the dynamics that he engages with right.
Yeah.
And that's a complicated balance to hold, right?
I really am glad that you brought this up. And it wasn't honestly something I thought about during the episode.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think I just, like, my brain is like Lwaxana, make brain go brrr, and I'm just having so much fun that I'm, like, not thinking about it in a critical lens as much.
And I think, to your credit, like, that is very clearly a part of, like, the DNA of what happened here, is that, like, she is so charming and fun and funny that, like, these scenes are just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And, like, clearly to make. Like, no one caught it while they were making it that this might feel some other kind of way.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really glad you brought it up. I also, you mentioned Lwaxana being a very drag queeny character, and that is something that I was thinking about throughout the episode. And just, like, performing femininity and, we'll talk more about kind of what Lwaxana shares later, but yeah, it's just an interesting sort of thing to chew on as you watch this episode.
It really is.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, back in Ops, Inara is learning more about the probe when suddenly the computer says that it's completed its analysis much earlier than expected. Kira, Dax, and Miles come over to learn that the probe is essentially one big, powerful computer. No communications or science modules, or any hint as to its origin or its mission.
We just don't know, except it's a computer.
Big computer with space wings. Nacelles, one might say.
Meanwhile, as Odo leaves the turbo lift on the promenade, Lwaxana catches him the second he steps off.
This moment is so fucking good.
So
Odo
funny.
like sticks his head out of the turbo lift and looks around to make sure she's not there before walking out, but she was waiting in the other hallway and immediately pops up like a fucking whack-a-mole. It's so good.
Delighted that she's found him, she tells him she's reserved a holosuite with Quark for a picnic for the two of them. Odo tries to flee again, saying he's not available, and he re-enters the turbo lift, but Lwaxana is too fast for him and joins him on his way to Upper Pylon 3. Odo has this great line where, just in complete horror, he's like, "You told Quark that you were going into a holosuite with me?" He's like, oh god, I will never hear the end of this.
I think that moment is so good, and it is such a small moment that is played entirely for comedy, and obviously it's very funny, but I also think it's interesting. It's like an interesting insight into Odo. Like, we've talked a lot about Odo's, like, the difference in the way his species ages and matures compared to like other humanoids that we're used to, and the fact that Odo is, despite the fact that he is like a consenting adult, he is also someone who is still going through a lot of the kind of emotional development that other species go through at a younger age. And I just thought like that thing about like, you told Quark you're going into a holosuite with me is very like, oh my god, I cannot be perceived as like being alone with a girl.
This is so
like,
embarrassing.
It just felt very middle school in a way that I was like, that should be exactly the vibe with Odo.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it doesn't help that it's Quark, which brings out the most middle school boy elements of Odo, but I just thought that was really fun.
So good. Also, just hilarious little comedic moment from Loxana. She knocks on the turbo lift before asking for the destination. She's like, "Bup, bup, upper pylon 3. I've always wanted to see an
just
upper
to like
pylon."
let you know we're here, that we got a
It's
request.
so cute. I love it.
Oh, man. So, intent on having her picnic with him, Loxana says that she will simply send for the basket from Quark. Odo loses his temper here and goes on a little bit of a rant about how different he is from her, including the fact that every 16 hours he turns into a liquid. Loxana is not at all perturbed, telling him, I can swim.
Iconic line. Absolutely iconic. So good.
Horny icon. Loxana Troy.
I want to be Loxana when I grow up.
And I really like Odo's little line here, his little rant. I don't eat. This is not a real mouth. It is an approximation of one. I do not have an esophagus or a digestive system or a stomach. I'm not like you. And it's just like the way you like talk, when it's like, get the point across, like, lady, it's all smooth down there. It's a Ken doll,
Ken doll situation.
Like, I really... And she's just like, I'll figure it out.
I can swim.
Smooth works for me.
Good. Before they reach their destination, however, the turbolift stops abruptly. Odo calls Ops, where Kira learns that the turbolift power has failed. Dax attempts to beam them out with the Ops transporter, but that malfunctions too. Kira tells Odo they'll work on it right away and that they'll get them out as soon as possible. Loxana sighs happily. Alone at last.
Christ.
Odo just has this look of absolute horror as she says that.
Absolute horror. It's so good. I mean, I am always shocked at how incredible the faces that Renee manages to make through all of that makeup are. Like, he must just have sat in his dressing room, like, staring at himself in the mirror, testing out what faces looked like when he made
what
them,
actually came through the pancake on his face.
Right. And I also just said, oh, yeah, baby, it's 90s TV and we are stuck in an elevator.
Classic shenanigans.
So in Ops, Miles, Dax, Kira, and Ben try to figure out why the turbolift isn't working. All the components are in working order, but for some reason, it just won't work. And the computer here is reading off a checklist of systems, and one of the things she lists is load detection functions normal, which makes sense as a system that DS9 would have. Gotta detect those loads.
Miles suggests a possible workaround, but doesn't know how long it will take. Kira updates Odo, warning him to not try and shapeshift out due to exposed electric circuits running through the turbolift's positioning mechanisms. And I feel like maybe they should have let Odo know about that earlier than this. Like, he's been living on this station for, 15 years or so?
That's very true. I mean, presumably he would not have had reason to shimmy his little goo down there before. I
guess not, But I was just like...
I hear you, though.
Or maybe she's just reminding him. Maybe it's like, you know this, but, we have to say it for the audience.
And I love here, too, the part where Kira says to him, it's, don't try shapeshifting out of there or you're going to be, black and goo. And Loxana goes, plus, it wouldn't be polite. And Kira sort of hears her and goes, what? And Odo has to repeat, it wouldn't be polite.
And Kira's like, understood. Kira out.
Also, I know that this is just nitpicking, and obviously the reason that we can't do this is that then there wouldn't be a plot, but use the transporters on one of the runabouts to beam them out of there. Like, my God. Come on, guys.
Who is thinking? No one.
I just think that would be my job on a Starfleet crew, to just remind everyone of the obvious solutions that no one else can think of because they're fictional characters being written by writers who are trying to create drama.
Guys, there's another transporter. We have a lot of them.
Yeah. Or like, what about the MacGuffin we used 3 weeks ago? Let's just do
pop
that again.
bad boy.
Perfect. Loaxana asks if they're really in any danger, and Odo assures her that they won't be as long as they remain calm. Loaxana's pleased, saying that then they could just enjoy themselves and get to know each other. Odo tells Loaxana that he would prefer to pass the time quietly, to Loaxana's disappointment, but she acquiesces while noting that she does tend to be attracted to quiet men. And I want to read this exchange here in its entirety because it's so good. She started out with Loaxana. She goes, "We could take this opportunity to get to know each other." And Odo has, "I really would rather pass the time quietly." Quietly, of course. Thank you. It's just so fucking funny.
It's so good. The timing is so good.
And they're so good at like feeding off of each other, and the energy is palpable.
I also just love, she's like, "The quiet man," and Odo just goes, It's so good. He doesn't want to be rude, but he's like, I can't talk here. I can't do it.
It's Odo's first experience being sexualized, and he doesn't really know what to do about it. Which is funny on the surface, but honestly kind of like emotionally complex. If we're, you know, I mean, if we are thinking about Odo as like kind of a teenager, I feel like that is something that I have heard all of the DFAB people in my life talk about at some point, of like the moment when people stopped perceiving them as children and started to perceive them like sexually, and that being like a very uncomfortable, fucked up experience that everyone has.
It's not a good time. It is not a fucking good time.
And like this kind of is that for Odo actually, which is interesting.
After a few moments, Loaxana shares to Odo that he doesn't have to say anything, but she really feels the need to talk.
We love a self-aware, self-advocating queen. She like really tries to like sit with like what Odo has asked of her and is like, actually, I simply cannot do
this. Odo tells her he understands, reassuring her that there's nothing to be afraid of.
And I love Odo being situationally forced to drop his grumpy veneer and be supportive and understanding. Like these little moments all add up to such growth for Odo over time, and we love to see them.
We do. Agreeing, Loaxana starts telling Odo about the time she was held captive on a Ferengi ship with her daughter. And Odo begins to consider just how painful those exposed circuits might be.
That's so fucking funny. Also, our second Menage a Troi reference. They really just want us to look up that episode on Memory Alpha, I guess. Do. Back in Sisko's office, Bashir begs Ben to relieve him of his escort duties. Sisko refuses, telling Julian that it's a relatively easy job and you never know when a connection to an ambassador could benefit you. And the quote that I'd written down was, "It's a simple job. Just keep them happy and away from me."
Julian asks if he's ever had to do this kind of assignment, and Ben tells him that, in fact, Curzon Dax took a perverse pleasure in giving him the unwelcome duty of escorting important guests.
Not surprising.
Until the day that Ben punched one of them for trying to force a young ensign into his quarters. We'll talk about that in a second. Sisko ends the discussion, warning Bashir not to hit any of the ambassadors because he won't be as understanding as Curzon.
Right, which is funny.
Yeah, and there is a great moment where Julian goes, "Hit one," and you can like hear the wheels turning in Julian's head.
Yeah,
and I'm like, has this twink ever struck a person in his life? Like, I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, Hippocratic Oath. It's a good excuse.
That's true. But yeah, let's talk about this little.
Yeah, so this little throwaway line feels so something. Like, wow, what a thing to include as sort of a throwaway like that, but also it feels like it especially stands out in the context of the Loaxana plotline that we were just talking about. Like the contrast of these two things here, and specifically the contrast of Ben's two reactions. Like when a man tries to abuse his power and take advantage of a young woman ensign, Ben hits the man. But when Loaxana is sexually harassing Odo, he's like, have you thought about letting go and just enjoying it? It feels very reflective of my earlier point about how the dynamics around all of this have aged, and specifically the way that it's perceived through the filter of gender. Right?
100%. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, that one, again, there's there's times where I'm able to critically engage with Star Trek, and then there's other times where my brain just goes "Arr!" over anything that I don't like in the dialogue. And that was definitely one of them. I was just like, no, we're not going to talk about that. Bye.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because it's like the moment is a moment about how sexual assault is bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's about how, like, Benjamin, like, punched this man in the face for doing something so inappropriate. But I feel like there is something uncomfortable within the, like, implication that Ben was maybe wrong for doing so, or at least that it was, like, the wrong choice for his career, or like for like Federation decorum, because he's telling Julian about this in the context of like, shut up and do your fucking job. So it is a little, I don't know.
It's weird. It's a weird moment.
It's weird.
It feels funky.
Would you say you have any clarity as to like what about it specifically made your brain make the fork in the dishwasher disposal sound, or in the garbage disposal sound? Yeah, because like, this is him like being like, I punched a guy who tried
like
to
on
rape
its
someone.
face,
Like,
it's like, good, you should do that.
Yeah,
I think it's just, as an AFAB person, it's like, I don't want to think about sexual assault. And like
just like the way the topic was raised, sort of cavalierly.
Yeah, it was like, I stopped a guy from like assaulting a Dunson, and it's like, ooh, that's okay.
Yeah,
I don't love that.
It almost the way that he presents it so casually almost feels like it takes us a little bit out of the setting. It feels like, because that is the kind of thing that you would speak about so casually in that way. For instance, like, sexual assault is an enormous problem right now in the U.S. military, and has been for
decades,
pretty much as long as that institution has existed. Yeah. And so that has been like an ongoing conversation, and it is very normal to hear people with service experience also talk about experiences like this, of like, walked in on someone doing something extremely inappropriate, or had something extremely inappropriate done to me. Yeah. And it feels like that is presented as sort of a normal, if not horrifying, at least par for the course, part of serving in the military, in a way that I do not feel makes sense for Starfleet.
Yeah, it's
not that like Starfleet has the ability, or like any being part of an enlightened culture, like weeds out rapists. Like, obviously those people can exist anywhere and can integrate themselves into any system, no matter how good it might seem on the surface. But still, something about the culture of it that we would talk so cavalierly about it like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that's, there's a variety of things at play, I think, that make it fork in dishwasher.
Yeah. Garbage disposal. Sorry, I said dishwasher and threw you off.
Oh, did I say dishwasher? Oh.
Yeah, but that's only because I did.
Well,
it's my fault.
At least we're in this together.
You.
We're all in this together.
We sure are, babes. So Miles, who is also all in this together, calls Ben as he leaves his office, telling him that he's having a problem with the computer. Or rather, he isn't. As strange as he admits it sounds, O'Brien claims that the computer has been nicer than ever since he downloaded the information from the probe. Additionally, every time he tries to leave ops, a new problem comes up, as if the computer doesn't want him to leave it alone. Ben notes that what Miles is sharing makes the computer sound kind of like a child.
This whole episode is peak comedy. Miles asks the computer a couple of like questions, and it answers, and he goes,
yeah, because he's trying to demonstrate to Cisco, like, do you see the
and
difference?
He's like, do you hear it? And Ben's like, hear what? So good.
Because obviously the slight changes in tone of Majel Barrett is not something that Ben's ears
Miles
are going to pick up on in the same way. Yeah, 100%.
So later, Ben shares in a station log update that Odo and Loxana are still trapped in the turbo lift.
Jeez, that's
a long time to be trapped in an elevator. My claustrophobic ass could not. So he meets with Dax, Kira, and Miles about the probe, where Dax hypothesizes that the information in the probe might be a sentient, non-biological or mechanical life form, though there isn't any hard evidence of this.
Right. They're just like, maybe. I don't know. We did not learn our lesson about speculation last week.
Ben asks if this theoretical life form could be communicated with, and O'Brien answers that in a way they've already been communicating with it through the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Kira sums it up as, "You're suggesting someone left a baby at our doorstep," which is a great line. And also, I think such insight into Kira, like the fact that she's like already like, this is something we need to take care of. Like, that feels significant to me. Like, what's this weird ass thing? Like the second she hears like it's a life form potentially, she's like, oh, okay, it needs help. We need to take care of it. Like,
and interesting as a growth moment, too, because I think while that is something that is an immutable part of Kira's character, her desire to be caring, to be nurturing, we saw earlier in the season how that desire had been suppressed so long by her combat instincts and her need to defend herself and her people that it was very difficult for her to look at scary new situations through a lens of empathy. And already that is broken down for her so much, where it's like, this thing is like actively like taking control of your station systems. It's trapped your best friend in an elevator with his sexual harasser and has like caused all of these other problems. And she's like, but it's just lashing out. Like, we just gotta which is, you know, it's sweet. And I love that we're getting more of that bit of her, that she's feeling safe to let that out. Yes. And I also had little fire station / safe surrender site in space. Ben points out that whatever it is, it's disabling the station and needs to be removed. O'Brien notes that it came to the station when they downloaded the probe's files, and the entity might go with the files back into the probe if they were to re-upload them.
Ben and Kira realize that it may be time for Odo to regenerate, meaning he could revert to his liquid state without his bucket if they don't hurry. Miles tries to re-upload the files from the probe, but the lights go out and the station shuts down. It's not great. Not great. I guess at this point they don't know, what would happen to him without a container. This feels like something the Majoran scientists might have tested when Odo was young. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there is definitely data that exists on this somewhere, but I buy that Ben and Kira don't specifically know what
That's
would happen.
Fair, yeah.
And so they're like, I also like how Kira says, but if he doesn't get to his pail on time, and then just sort of trails off because, like, they do not know what that would mean, but they know it's probably not good.
Meanwhile, on the promenade, the ambassadors begin to harangue Julian about the power outage. Julian defends O'Brien's engineering prowess and tells the ambassadors he'll escort them all to their quarters. He's like, Miles is one of the best in Starfleet. That's his boyfriend. Don't be rude.
He also has this line where he goes, out here, on the edge of the frontier, it's just one adventure after another. And I just love the resentful way he sort of spits out the word adventure here. It's like a great little acting moment of giving the line additional meaning because he's so sick of these fucking people. And it's just like, every day is a fucking adventure.
I love also just like the referencing of the frontier again, like back in the pilot when we got like frontier medicine. And he's like,
and now he's kind of talking to these dumb bitches from the Federation about it and like presenting it as like something naive that they might think rather than something which it's just a nice little like he's getting it. He's been here for a minute. He's slightly less stupid.
Mildly less.
In the turbolift, Lwaxana finishes talking about her life, and she asks Odo if he wants to talk about himself for a little while. Clearly physically uncomfortable, Odo takes a while to open up, but he then tells Lwaxana about his life being studied by a Bajoran scientist and learning to become self-sufficient. Lwaxana says that she's sure he's had to be self-sufficient to survive, and notes that his life must have been quite lonely.
I love that she like starts by asking about his hair. And then
her first question is that hair real? Which is so good.
And she's like, oh, you studied hairstyles? Like, let's talk wig shop. Like,
yeah. And then his answer, he goes, it is real in that it is me. It is not real hair, which I think is a great description. And then there's so much that's good. And the elevator is just, everything that happens in the elevator is great. But he has this line here where he tells her, I did not grow up as you think of it. It was merely a transition from what I used to be to what I learned to become. And I had, okay, so growing up.
So that's what you just described.
Like, this is a character beat for Odo that I absolutely adore whenever it comes up. This feeling that his experience has been so singular and so completely different from the experience of any other sentient
No one has
life
ever
form.
experienced this, ever.
Not because he actually knows that to be true, but because it's what he assumes, given that he never lets anyone get close enough to actually talk about this sort of thing.
Seriously,
right?
Yeah.
It's a very endearing little beat, and it will continue to come up as he sort of realizes, like, oh, all of the things that I have assumed my whole life made me an outsider might actually just be part of, like, what is difficult about being alive.
That might just be part of existence for everybody.
Yeah. And I think that is very relatable, because everybody who goes through their own childhood bullshit, like, it feels like no one has ever experienced anything like this before. And then you get to adulthood and you're like, yeah, no one has ever experienced exactly what I experienced. But also, everyone was having a singular experience being like, I'm the only one who has ever experienced this right now. And then we all grow and learn from that.
And we do. And it's beautiful. I love that we get to see how insightful Loxana is here. You know, her sensitivity to Odo's feelings, and she clearly sees that, you know, his background is a difficult subject for him. Like, she really softens in a really beautiful way here. And I really love that we get to see this side of her.
I agree. I also really, really love how surprised Odo is by this. Like, he really never thought that letting someone in like this could hold any value for him. Like, he just never was like, well, that's just not something I need. That's a humanoid matter.
That's a
blah,
solid
blah, blah.
thing.
But moreover, given how he thinks of himself as this skilled investigator, you know, so removed from society and making these cold observations from outside, I think Odo's truly shocked that there's so much more to Loxana than he originally thought. And I think that's a major turning point in Odo's overall character arc. The idea that, like, his assessment within the first 3 minutes of meeting someone is not actually always going to give him all the information he might need about something.
Yeah, he's not always going to be correct.
One that is like that's a wild, eye-opening experience for him.
Loxana tells Odo that he doesn't have to talk about his life if he doesn't want to, but he continues telling her how he tried to fit in by entertaining people at parties, and he hates parties now.
Yeah. And I think this is such a great little beat of character development for Odo and fleshing out his background. The entertaining people, it was like presented as, he sort of made himself like a kind of like a freak show, like a sideshow, for lack of a better term. Like, it was like, oh, Odo be a chair, Odo be a whatever, and he would use his shape-shifting to get attention, to receive positive attention, but it was also kind of people laughing at him, not so much with him. And I think it just adds so much depth to this whole crotchety persona of his, to think about it as the culmination of experiences being or feeling rejected while trying to people please, so much so that he gave up on people pleasing forever.
Completely turned his back on it.
know? And did like really a 180 and is like, fuck people. I'm good. You know?
So true.
So Loxana tells him that if he goes to one of her parties, she promises that everyone will be there to entertain him. And Odo is charmed by this, absolutely, but then doubles over in pain as he tries to hold off his need to regenerate. Loxana holds onto his arm, trying her best to comfort him.
His face when she says everyone will be there to entertain him.
Oh.
It's such a sweet moment.
It's such a good moment. And also, Renee Auberjonois, the actor that you are, the incredible range of emotions on display on his face, from the shock and surprise to the happiness to the confusion, and then quickly it all overshadowed by the physical pain. This is a brilliant performance moment.
He's just the best.
Acting students, take note.
Meanwhile, O'Brien has come up with a plan to distract the sentient, whatever it is, life form that has taken over the station's computer. As he slowly tries to cut it off from the station's systems, Cisco, Dax, and Inara all give the computer increasingly complex commands in an effort to occupy its consciousness. Anara gives it a command to put together like a catalog of Bajoran Serenas, and I just love like different cultures having different definitions and names for musical pieces, and I was like, I'd love to hear a Bajoran Serena. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's been a fun thing about, already we're starting to get being Bajor locked, for lack of a better word. We start to get, we've got the Rapages, we've got the Tessipates, now we've got the Serenas. Like, we can build a vocabulary for this place because we're not just going to a different planet every week, and that's one of the very cool things that makes DS9 unique.
Simply love it.
So the plan seems to be working at first, but shocker, something goes wrong, and the system overloads. A plasma surge erupts in the habitat ring where Bashir is escorting the ambassadors to their quarters. The four of them are trapped, choking on smoke as the resulting fire rages towards them. And I do think it's very funny how these three are like always together while Loaxana is just always off doing whatever she wants.
That tracks. Like, that is what Loaxana does.
Yeah.
Cisco and Kira try to break through the corridor door to get to Julian and the others, but it's reinforced and they'll need heavy-duty equipment to cut through. In Ops, O'Brien is morose that the computer isn't paying any attention to him. Dax compares the life form to a puppy, which Kira had done earlier, making Miles remember his own puppy from when he was young. Miles realizes that the life form thrives on attention, like a puppy, and begins to, quote, build a doghouse for it, much to Dax's confusion.
I love how a lot of times Dax's job is to just stand there and be like, what the hell
are you saying?
While O'Brien is like, I'm going to make a warp nacelle out of duct tape. Like... I also wanted more information about what kind of dog Miles had. I want pictures.
I'm like, Miles, tell us more about your puppy.
I feel like he would have like a bully breed. Like
that
strikes me as like his vibe.
Yeah.
In the turbo lift, Odo faces away from Loaxana as he struggles to hold his shape. Loaxana tells him to turn around, that it's all right. And Odo tells her that no one has ever seen him like this before, other than the Bajoran scientist assigned to him. He tells her that he's not ashamed, but it's simply a private matter, and Loaxana asks him how she can make this easier for him, but he tells her she really can't.
And Odo's making, like, the saddest sounds. He tries to go.
I know, little sad goo.
He's like, Odo out. I'm like, baby.
Best scene in the episode. One of the best scenes in the show,
hands down.
Period. Like, goddamn, so good.
And Loaxana reaches out, showing Odo her hair, revealing it to be a wig. Odo turns around to see Loaxana with her real black hair tightly pinned up as she tells him that no one has ever seen her like this. I am chewing on the power lines. Vulnerability, intimacy. It's so good. It's such a good moment.
Loaxana is such an interesting character in the ways that she is and is not emotionally intelligent, because she's like so defined so often in the ways that she's used for comedy by her obliviousness. But then you get moments like this where it's like, oh, actually, I kind of think this bitch like knows more about what's going on than anybody else. And chooses to ignore it because it gets in the way of her having fun sometimes. But like when it really comes down to it, she's like, oh, I've got everybody's number here.
Yeah.
She's,
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of really interesting when you think about her daughter's role on the Enterprise as the counselor, right? Sort of gives an insight into maybe why Deanna thought that this would be a trajectory that might be good for her. So Odo asks her why, telling her that she looks fine with her natural hair, but Loaxana tells him that she looks ordinary, and that's something that she has never cared to be. She tells Odo that even non-shapeshifters have to change who they are once in a while. Odo then tells Loaxana that she isn't at all like what he expected, and Loaxana tells him no one's ever paid her a greater compliment. This exchange is just so
good.
Because she knows how she comes across. And normally she's not super concerned with that. But the fact that this man who she's so drawn to has now taken the time to see past that, I think really touches her.
Yeah, it's so good. Odo, in pain again, shares that he can't hold his shape any longer. And Loaxana tells him to let go. She'll take care of him. Odo finally allows himself to release, transforming into his liquid state in her dress that she pulls up to hold him.
Her holding him in the folds of her skirt is just the best thing ever. It's so good.
I love this episode so much. I love...
Somebody just, like, needed to hold Odo for so long. Like, I think this is maybe the first hug he has ever received.
Though, I love him learning to be vulnerable and like,
And also, like, Lwaxana clocking his tea immediately that, like, he has never been hugged before. Because, like, I think you look at Odo and, like, especially you hear Odo and you're like, that's a 50-year-old man, you know? But she immediately sees past his crunchy exterior and is like, there is, like, mostly, like, a scared young thing in there, you know? Which is, like, complex when you think about, like, her, like, ravenous sexual appetite for him, but you almost sort of have to take this scene on its own in that way.
So Kira and the others continue to try to get into the corridor while O'Brien prepares to execute his plan. He reroutes all main backup computer functions through a subprogram labeled PUP, and then transfers all probe command sequences out of core memory and into the PUP subprogram. All systems immediately come back online.
Sure, whatever. I don't know anything about computers, but that sounded fake
as hell, but by God, it worked.
Sure.
Also, there's the computer says something to Miles, and he's like, "Great." It's a great moment of just Miles being Miles.
So Sisko and Kira finally manage to enter the corridor where Bashir and the ambassadors were trapped, and at first they find it empty, think that everyone must have perished in the fire, when suddenly Julian and the ambassadors emerge from a conduit, sooty and disheveled, but alive. The ambassadors, grateful to Julian and their opinions of him having completely reversed, tell Sisko that they are recommending Bashir for a commendation.
Hell yeah, brother. Lojal, who is the Vulcan ambassador, says, "The doctor was remarkably calm and logical, which is truly the highest praise any Vulcan can give."
Yeah, that was impressive. Good for you, Julian.
A human being logical. That's serious.
So then we cut to Odo and Lwaxana finally emerging from the turbolift, shape and wig restored. And wow, it really, really looks like they just left it there.
I mean,
that's like the way that they walk out, and she's like adjusting
her wig,
her hair, and like, it's very funny.
Odo thanks Lwaxana for her company, noting that their adventure can't have been what she imagined for their picnic. Lwaxana assures Odo that all that really matters on a picnic is the company.
Yeah.
Odo tells her he appreciates her discretion and sensitivity, and Lwaxana promises that the next time she sees him, she'll give him a lot more to appreciate.
Ooh. She gonna give him that hot gua.
Oh my god. Did you
spit on that thing?
Did you plan that joke, or was that just like brilliance?
No, I just thought of it.
That was amazing. Exquisite. No notes.
Thank you. All of my jokes that I thought of in advance are in the notes. You will know.
That's true. Fair enough.
Well, returning to Ops, Benjamin asks Miles how he was able to beat the entity, and Dax tells him that Miles didn't beat it, he adopted it. Miles explains that he isolated the entity into a sub-program in their computer instead of returning it to the probe, a doghouse, essentially, for a puppy, so to speak. Ben is surprised that Miles suggests keeping it around, but O'Brien assures him it won't do any harm and that he'll take care of it and give it attention, and Sisko tells Miles to just keep it off the furniture.
Please, Dad, please, can I keep it? I'll brush it and feed it and call it George.
I promise I'll take care of it. Also, cybersecurity Hooms. We're getting a dog.
Roll credits.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my Lord.
They are rolling the credits.
Sure are.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's head right into our final analysis, which is our section where we dig into our overall impressions of the episode, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what thematic shit felt resonant. Let's dig in.
Let's do it.
What did you think, Steph? What did you think of this episode?
Like I said at the beginning, I do think like the pacing's good. They do a nice job of balancing the subplots and etc. It's just to me it's the Renee and Majel show. Honestly, I'm just here for the two of them and just it's really good.
As it should be.
The computer thing feels very whatever. Which is funny because the title is The Forsaken, and I guess the Forsaken thing is like this entity. But at the end of the day, we're kind of like, eh.
Well, I think it's the entity, but it's also both Odo and Lwaxana, right?
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
But no, it is sort of strange that we are like insistent on framing the less interesting thing is the A plot. Like it almost feels like it feels like it has to be, the A plot has to be like more science fiction-y, and then the B plot can be more interpersonal. And it's like, but this is Deep Space Nine. All your best stuff is interpersonal.
Yeah.
Like,
it feels very featuring TNG in that way.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, really, like, that was the A plot in terms of like what drives the action of the story of this episode. Like, that's the elevator for sure.
For sure. What did you think?
I just think this is such a good Odo episode. Odo is one of my favorite characters in the series. It's him and Kira right at the top, sort of like always competing depending on whose episode it is. And I find him just absolutely fascinating, and his relationship to Lwaxana I think is one of the most fascinating things about him. I especially think that relationship is interesting contrasted with his other major relationship with a woman on the series, with Major Kira. It's hard to think of two people more different from one another than Kira and Lwaxana. And I think it's so interesting how Odo gets very, very different things from these two relationships and from these two women. Like, Odo's connection with Kira is so easy. They get each other so effortlessly, and their relationship does not require a lot of deep conversations or even the exchange of a lot of words in order to be intimate. And this feels very uniquely safe to Odo as someone who has absolutely no idea how to vocalize his most intimate thoughts. And I think probably to Kira also, you know, it's different experiences, but they both had adolescences that were colored by let's say a lack of normality and stability. And you know, Lwaxana meanwhile pushes Odo the fuck outside of his comfort zone.
She shoves him out of
and
that thing.
he finds it very strange and unappealing and even off-putting at first, but ultimately it helps Odo unlock a part of himself that he had previously been completely unwilling to touch. And as much as he and Kira love each other, she doesn't push him to confront things within himself like that. And that's what makes this relationship with Lwaxana so special to him and so key, I think, to his ultimate character trajectory. Like, she is very much like a mama bird that is not afraid to like push him out of the nest.
So. Yeah.
But also will feed him a worm from her mouth if he needs it.
You're so right. I'm so glad you said it.
Alrighty, well, that's all I've got for final analysis. So if that's you as well, I think we'll shift over to behind the scenes. Just a couple things that we had to share for behind the scenes today. The first thing I just want to share is a quote from DS9 writer Michael Piller, where he said, I figured putting two people in an elevator has got to save some money somewhere.
They're like, we've been doing all these sets. We got to cut that out.
Yep. And much like other times that they've tried this, it produced one of the best episodes of the series. Like,
there you have it.
The lesson here is really that DS9 should just be a play.
I was literally about to say it's essentially like
in a room together.
A play set, like, is what it is.
100%. It's just people talking. That's
God, do we love that shit. This was a favorite episode of Rene Auberjonois, and one he felt was extremely important to Odo's early development.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some other Odo-focused episodes in this season. We had our first Odo Mystery Hour, I think, maybe like the third episode or something, but I can definitely see why this would rank as one of Renee's favorites. It feels like it not just establishes how the character fits into the larger structure of the show, but it establishes how this character works as a person. And for an actor, that is the kind of thing that you're like chomping at the bit.
Give me that
for.
shit.
Like, help me understand this person's like interior reality.
Yeah.
Lastly, I had that this was apparently the first episode to depict Odo's fully natural liquid changeling form. It will not be the last time, but there was some pretty intense CGI work needed to go into this episode to develop and execute that look. And remember, this was a time, listeners, when CGI was like brand spanking new.
Fucking
and
edge
so
stuff.
yeah, just in order to like have him melt into her skirt was like a whole thing that him just like melting to change shape in the past was not. And I just wanted to highlight
Shout
that.
out to CGI artists for sure. Pay them, Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, that was back when at least they were.
Yeah,
still
true. They hadn't figured out how to exploit them yet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't great,
it's
but
still
it's certainly better than it is
labor under
now.
capitalism, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, the Disney sweatshops and whatnot. Yeah.
So we'll move on over now to our design corner, where we talk about sets, costumes, overall production design, and just chat about
all those good looks.
What we liked, our looks. Ambassador designs, obviously, especially Loxana, of course. But I did really love like the Bolian's very embroidered look, the Vulcan ambassador's outfit.
Yeah, I noted his was really good, especially. Yeah. I liked the way that they integrated the Vulcan script into his jacket. I thought that was sick.
I love that, and it always makes me think of the motion picture because Spock shows up serving cunt in that black number with script on it, and queen.
Which, speaking of that look as well, I feel like there is a tendency to depict Vulcans in mainly cool colors. I feel like that, like, if I had to guess, goes back to just Spock wears blue in the original, and so they're continuing the design language of that. But it stood out to me that this Vulcan ambassador's outfit was black with red accents. It just felt like we don't usually get a color that feels so emotional on a Vulcan, and I thought that was an interesting choice, and I think it made sense to highlight, like, when Vulcans aren't main characters in a story, they are usually there to be an impediment. They're usually there to be annoying. And this guy was definitely here to cause problems, and so we, like, visually indicate that with the fact that he's in red, right? Where it's like, this is not a Vulcan that is here to, like, be helpful to us. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah, so, and then Loxana's looks amazing. That lacy blue top in the security office, oh my god.
Yeah. So there's three looks that she rocks throughout this episode. We'll just go through all of them. There's the bubblegum pink wig and the ensemble from the first scene, which is really great. I don't know that the pink is necessarily her color for hair, but I will never tell her not to wear what she wants to wear. The next one that you noted, the blue lacy top with the red wig, killer. I mean, I'm always a sucker for when we do like a blue with an orange.
Great combo. Classic.
Great combo, and she looks so
She looks great in it. She looks amazing.
But she really brings it home with the last one, which is this va-va-voom red dress with a blonde wig. So it's like she's very like giving like Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very classic Hollywood. The red dress, the blonde. Yeah. I actually really like that her elevator look is simple. So like it's striking, of course, in Loxana fashion, but comparatively toned down, like which really lets us focus on, you know, the story and her and Odo interacting. I really liked that choice.
Yeah. I also just want to take a moment to highlight that Loxana, if for any of you that aren't watching the episodes along with us or just listening to the podcast, Loxana is an older woman. She is the mother to an adult professional on the Enterprise. So we meet her as like a maternal figure who like is dressed a little more marmy kind of at the beginning, but very quickly starts to branch out into these like bright, colorful, a little slutty outfits. And I just think, especially given the time that this was made and filmed, that's kind of trend-setting and incredible. Like, to allow an older woman like that to be a sex symbol and like putting herself out there. I mean, I think in some ways it is allowed because she's almost a little bit of a mockery of herself. So like to like the straight men in the room that don't get it, they could kind of write it off as a joke. But like Loxana is not the butt of the joke. If you're like paying attention, like she is the moment. She is an icon. Like, other people sometimes laugh at her, and they are wrong to do so because she is always having a better time than them, living her best life.
Looking hotter than they
are.
They
are the ones having a problem. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I just think that is really cool that they let an older woman be
Right?
hot like that. Like, that is such, it shouldn't be, but that was such a, like, I mean, still
I was
to
going to
this
say,
day,
even
that doesn't
today,
happen,
I feel like
really.
that
I
is
mean,
still something that is so rare. You feel like you need to comment on it because it happens so infrequently.
But especially in the 90s when you get, I mean, you hear about the things that Terry Farrell and Nana Visitor were put through, and those are two of the most beautiful, like, conventionally attractive women you could ever imagine, right? And so it's just pretty shocking that, and I guess, you know, Majel, she's got that clout. Like, she is the first lady of Star Trek, and I bet that's a big part of why she was able to be that in a way that other women at the time were not allowed to.
Absolutely.
Anything else you got for design before we head into the outro?
Not for me. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know why I said that twice.
It's fine. I enjoy being thanked. And thank you, listeners, all so much for joining us for this episode and our discussion of The Forsaken.
We have one final segment left in today's episode, a little something we like to call Consulting the Orb of Prophecy.
Woo, 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 woo.
Where we look ahead into the future of the series and discuss spoilers that relate to this week's episode.
If you've watched Deep Space Nine before, or you just don't mind spoilers, stick around after we sign off for that discussion. If you're watching along with us for the first time and don't want to be spoiled for future episodes, you're going to want to hop off after the sign-off.
The Star Trek Deep Space Nine Paramount cast is recorded in San Diego and San Carlos, California, and produced by us, as well as our heir to the Holy Rings of Beta Z, Peter.
A big thanks to friend of the show, Matt, who produced our theme music, and to Tumblr user at GrandCon221B, whose Star Trek pit crew was used to generate the avatars of us featured in the show's cover art.
New episodes drop every week on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you have any questions, comments, or would like to chat with us about Star Trek, you can email us at ds9cast@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky at ParamountCast for updates and memes.
Last but not least, if you're enjoying the show, please review and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other folks to find the show. And please join us next week for our discussion of Deep Space Nine, Season 1, Episode 17, Dramatis Personae.
Bye!
We'll see you next time. Bye! Hello and welcome to a little segment we like to call Consulting the Orb of Prophecy. And we call it that because of our likelihood to get non-linear up in this biznatch.
Get fucking non-linear with it.
We're going out of order, skipping around,
And we
fucking
can't be
with
tamed.
time.
We simply
Bitch.
can't be tamed.
What do you got today for that sweet, sweet Orb of Prophecy, Steph?
For that sweet, sweet orb, pondering the orb. I actually would like to talk about Odo and changelings and reverting to the liquid state and its relation to intimacy.
Please do.
Thank you. I, like I said earlier, forgot that this episode happens in the first season of the show. And I think it's fascinating on a couple different levels that, well, let me start with that we see intimacy in this, natural, like, unvarnished liquid state. And it's intimacy that, despite Lwaxana pursuing him all episode, is not sexual in its context. It's very much a safe, I am taking care of you. We're, not getting gooey with it, literally. And I really love that Odo has this intimacy that is non-sexual, especially considering when we talk about how young Odo is relatively.
I have always found that difficult to talk about, like the fact that it's like I view him as fundamentally such a character that is informed by his relative lack of life experience, and also he is an adult played by an adult in the context of the show that has sexual relationships with other adults, and it's a complicated thing to square. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's very interesting how his intimacy can be sort of non-sexual, while also having sexual aspects to the relationship.
Yes. And then I also love that despite the fact that, Odo has never met any other changelings, he doesn't know where he came from, he knows that the liquid state is something private. He knows that it's something that is for him.
Yeah.
and not for, quote unquote solids. Like, obviously he
Right.
finds ways where he does share that, and it is intimate, and sometimes it is in a sexual context, and I'm glad for that. I love that for him.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting when you talk about like instinct and like knowing yourself and knowing,
Yeah.
what it is to be a person. And it's like, no, this is for me, and this is not something that goes to everybody,
Yeah.
I just think and then later when we come to, the Great Link and like the ultimate intimacy, they are all joined, like, but then we also get like the Great Link, but like with the woman changeling, which it's a whole other thing we'll talk about. And it is intimacy in a sexual context. It's really interesting. I just think the whole like reverting to his liquid state and intimacy is a very interesting topic.
It is a very interesting, if not slightly muddled metaphor, where like it's there is so much that is interesting that is packed in there, but it almost is sometimes to its own detriment that it feels like the metaphor isn't very clear, and so there's a lot that can be like misattributed if you were to approach it not in good faith. So that is, I could see that being like a very complex point of discussion. I also think from what you said, the thing that I picked out that was really interesting is, okay, so this is something that is an instinct for him, meaning it's not something that is cultural conditioning.
Exactly.
And that's really interesting, right? Because, like, for example, I don't think that I necessarily, I mean, this is all conjecture, I have no way of knowing, but I don't think that I would necessarily have something innate in me that said, I don't want to be perceived naked unless I had been told from a young age that to not have clothes on is socially wrong, right? Like, I don't think I would have something inherent in me that, like, knows that. But maybe we would. Maybe there is something sort of, like, similar to not having clothing on to what they experience when they go, which is, like, I am vulnerable now. I am exposed in a way that even though I have not been told by parents or school or whatever that I need to do this, it feels natural.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's where, like you said, the stuff gets muddled, because is it like a metaphor for nudity? Is it a metaphor for sexuality? Is it a metaphor for emotional vulnerability? And I mean, maybe it's good that it can be multiple things to multiple people.
I think the answer is yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when is it his last name or his first name? Yes.
Right. Oh, just share. Just Odo share. Now I do. See, if I weren't deeply, deeply immorally opposed to generative AI, I would be going straight from here to there and being reproduce all of Cher's albums, but with Odo singing them.
I thought you were going to say like reproduce Cher iconic looks, but sung by Odo.
Oh, that would be good too.
Or not sung by Odo, but like Odo in the outfit, like yeah, like the Academy Awards dress for his.
Yeah. Odo should be a runway model, frankly. I mean,
you're not wrong.
You just do the Lukes instantly. Any more about that liquid intimacy you want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. I don't really have a point other than like, this is interesting to talk about.
It's super, super interesting, and it's only going to get more so. I think that this was like kind of the first moment of it like raising itself up as something we should be paying more attention to, and that will pay dividends moving forward. So I'm very glad we talked about it. Majel Barrett will appear as Loxana Troy 2 more times on Deep Space Nine, and it will be absolutely fucking delightful each time.
It will be the best.
As well as making meaningful contributions to Odo's character development each time. So those are going to continue to very much be paired characters. Part of that is that without Deanna there, they have to come up with a reason for Loxana to show up on Deep Space Nine, which is trickier. And so a lot of times it's her just being like, oh, yes, I just came to see how Odo's doing, and if he wants to fuck me. No? All right, I'll leave. Goodbye.
Just checking again, seeing if he's changed his mind. No? All right, bye.
But I kind of find that to be like a delightful part of it, that they keep having to find reasons for her to show up. That's just like part of the fun of any wacky guest star, you know?
It's true.
We also talk about Odo's hair in this episode. We learn later that Odo's hairstyle, or he mentions in this episode, but we learn more explicitly later and see more explicitly later when we meet him, that Odo's hairstyle is an exact replica of Dr. Mora's hair, the scientist who is his father, essentially, the person who like raised him.
Yeah.
Then what's even funnier is that the other changelings, when they come from the Gamma Quadrant, base their humanoid appearances off of Odo's, meaning that they also have exact replicas of Dr. Mora's hair.
Which is so good.
For the entire rest of the series. So in a way, Dr. Mora has created this like self-fulfilling narcissism species that looks exactly like him throughout the galaxy,
good.
And they
so
just
great.
happen to be the most murderous tyrants that ever lived.
You know, it do be like that sometimes.
Sadly, the digital dog never comes back,
Rip.
which I do think is kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, that's a pretty big status quo shift
There's
to leave us
a thing
with
that lives
there.
in our computer, as
Sure.
you do.
Whatever, it's fine. And it's just a bummer that like the constraints on the format wouldn't allow for more to be developed here. I think about I know that you haven't watched this yet, but hopefully that you will just forget this by the time that you do. Star Trek Discovery has an arc where their ship's computer ends up absorbing an untold quantity of data from an ancient being that has existed like since the dawn of time.
Oh.
And for a while she is just like hosting that data, but over time starts to evolve as a result of holding that, and like comes to a place of eventually reaching something resembling sentience and like chooses a name for herself, and it's a whole
fun.
really interesting arc. But it feels like that is something they could have explored here. It would have fit in perfectly with kind of the approach that they've already taken, which is like this like the station is a character angle, you know.
Right. That's kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, if we had gotten to really deal with like or like the Doctor on Voyager. Like Star Trek really loves dealing with these like, oh, the scenery comes to life around you and like becomes part of the story. And I just think that would have been something cool to hold on to. And it's kind of like, why did you do that if you didn't want to have anything more? Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's just we need something to happen while Loxon is here. Like,
Yeah, we need something to happen for 44 minutes.
and you know, something did.
Jesus Christ. Oh, it sure did. The last thing I had, sorry, there was more than I realized for Orb of Prophecy.
No, do it.
In a future episode, I can't remember when, but I think it's pretty soon. I think it's either at the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2. We will have a character who is a member of the Bajoran militia, who is sort of like an apprentice to Miles, attempt to assassinate Vedic Barile on the orders of then Vedic Win.
Whoa! Boo! Fuck that bitch!
This will ultimately end up being a new character that we haven't met yet, but the idea was originally it was intended to be the Anara character introduced in this episode. Unfortunately, Anara herself is never seen again after this episode.
I liked her. I liked her vibe. But
I liked her too, and I'm like, why would you introduce her then? I have to think if maybe it was just like she couldn't come back to film the episodes where that happens, possibly.
Yeah, maybe. She had another job.
The tricky thing about being a supporting or even smaller part on these shows is that, like, if you get offered something bigger, you have to take it. Even if you had fun doing the show, it's just not economically worth it to, like, make yourself available in case Deep Space Nine calls you back to do, like, 4 more lines, you know?
You know, it's a working actor's life, and it's tough.
Yeah, and it's only even tougher now, so I can't even imagine. For those of you who are, like, unaware or are not, like, in circles with people who, like, work in television, theater, whatever, things have changed a lot since COVID. Like, the fact that you get, like... You look at, like, the fact that, like, Meryl Streep, for instance, is doing, like, Only Murders in the Building. That's crazy. That is, like, the kind of thing that, like, a couple years ago would have been unheard of. And it's not something that is like a problem necessarily, except for then you think about the actors that used to book those roles and there's nothing left for them.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends who live in New York and are trying to make it as actors right now, and hearing from them like auditions and casting calls and stuff have been horrendous since COVID, and especially since we are now on this sort of new structure schedule where it's like it used to be if you were a leading character on a TV show, that is 7 years of work. Like you work year round for as many years, maybe not 7. I mean, that's a pretty good run, but like consecutive
3 to 4
years
maybe.
of work.
Like
Now, if you're on a show, that's 3 months of work every 2 years.
Yeah.
And then in between, you have to fill it in and figure it out. This is kind of a tangent and not really relevant to Orb of Prophecy at all, but I just kind of felt like going off on it because I feel like it's something that a lot of people really don't know about. And I think a lot of people tend to think about everyone who works, not necessarily in the arts, but specifically in television, as like super rich and like working all the time and like it being like a very easy life once you like get to the point that you're actually getting cast in things. And it's like, no, baby, that's not like, even your Meryl Streeps are like struggling to get work right now. So it's a hard time to be working in the arts. And I don't know. I'm just grateful to be here with you and being able to do something creative where, granted, we don't get paid for it, but at least we're
having a good fucking time, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's really interesting that you bring that up because my mom the other day was like, why are there all these like big actors in advertisements now? Like they should let like the smaller actors have them. I'm like, I think they need it. Like, I don't think like...
Well, and that is an interesting question about like need, right? Because do they need it?
Do they
Probably
need
not.
it? Yeah.
But is there a perception enough that they need it because they have less money than they used to? I mean, yes, I absolutely agree. Like, Meryl Streep probably could have let someone other than her
Meryl
do
Streep
that,
be
but
on,
she wanted to hang out with Martin Short, which I respect.
Which is so fair. Like, so fair, Meryl.
Did you know they're
dating?
Did you know they're dating?
Shut up, really?
Isn't that so cute?
That's adorable.
It's just
I
like
love
the most
that.
adorable little old Muppet couple I've ever imagined.
That is truly amazing and makes me very, very happy.
It feels like a similar energy to another recent celebrity couple, which I also love, which is Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson.
I was just thinking that. I was like, same energy. It's so good.
Oh, neither of them are quite as Muppety, but it's still good.
They have their own vibe, and that's important too.
All right, well, I think we've completely gotten off track, so...
But it's our podcast, so...
Yeah, suck it up, bitch!
Suck it up. Or you've stopped listening by now, in which case, bye.
By that, we mean thank you so much for listening. We love you.
We love you so much. Please keep
Thank you for being generous with your time. Well, that's it for us today on the Parmockcast, then, folks and friends.
Hang in there.
We will see you next time. Try not to fall in a space hole in the meantime. We hear that's
Do our
rough.
best. Do your best, and we'll do our best.
Bye.
Bye.